Hello, and welcome back. This is another installment of Shed Wars. The biggest reason is because one of the issues that many people have with gardening is really the difficulty, whether they have mobility issues or the fine setting of seed, that kind of thing. And I understand, because quite often, you hear me breathing heavy in the videos and bending over and trying to get in these awkward positions. It does create a issue with many gardening tasks. I come across this idea last year when I was watching videos on YouTube, and there was these on a commercial farm planting out onion seedlings. So I got my onions started in a flat, separate. Now this is one of the other things, right? They on that video they had their onion seedlings all in separate cells. So we'll take our onion seedlings out. And we'll put them here in this little container. Now the video I was watching, they could actually hang the entire thing on their side, because it was like one of those commercially purchased trays. But mine's a little different. I've got some onion seedlings here that's not looking the greatest, but I'm going to plant them all anyway. How many was that? That was 4, right? See if I can, no, that was 3. See if I can count them as I'm going now. It was quite cold last night, see, so some of this soil is basically frozen in there. No, the counting is not going to work. I've got it lost again now. Frozen soil actually might help me today. Because it's keeping the soil together into more of a block. That's a really not like nice looking one, but we'll see what shall become of it. So as we usually do, we try to put them in straight lines, so we'll make just a little furrow going by the edge of the bed as the guide, and then I eyeball it about 6 inches over to make myself several furrows. Now, it's actually the inside of one of those tension rods that you put up by your bathtub for the shower curtain. That's the inside piece of pipe. See, I kind of open up that end a little bit. Now, if you got fairly soft soil, you can put this pipe down and just push it sideways like that, and there's no soil in the pipe because you've been pushing it sideways to get it down into the ground. And so what happened there now is that this pipe is a little too small for the plug, so I squished the plug to narrow it down a bit. Now I've dropped it down. It's planted. You start close to the last onion because onion is supposed to be 3 inches apart or something. And then you pull it sideways towards you. And I shook it because the first one that I did, it fell sideways when I just pulled the pipe up. Nice and planted now. I'll bring you in close so you'll see a close-up of the planting. So you see this last onion here. I'm going close, then I'm just pulling sideways as I'm pushing the pipe into the ground. I'll go like that. I have to make sure the plug is small enough to go down through the pipe. Like I say, if you have a bigger plug, you just get a bigger pipe. And you can feel the plug go down through and hit the bottom. And I just shake it. Oh, he's not going to come out now. Doesn't always work. So I put the pipe close to the last onion, sideways like this. Make sure my plug is small enough to slide right down through the pipe. And I have it planted. And I didn't even bend over. Nine, that's usually what I put in a row, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. Reaching across is kind of difficult, so I'll have to start in the middle. I have this thing I've made. This is actually closer to what you would get if you had the professional stand-up planter. It's a piece of electrical conduit piping, and I had two pieces, so I was going to just run it through the bandsaw and cut it directly in half. But when I started, I realized that if I twisted it through the bandsaw, I would get a piece of pipe that actually went around my inner piece as it went up. Okay, and then I used my heat gun to form this little foot back down here. and this handle up here. With that, I can open and close it. So when I push the handle down, you see this hinge on the bottom? So that's with the handle pushed down, and when I squeeze it together, it opens up. Now the good thing about that is that I can poke it straight down where I want it to go. And like I say, make sure your plug is small enough that it is going to drop all the way down. Now this is the first time I've used this on the onion seedlings, so let's see if it works. And then I open it up. But my onion seedling didn't come out. That worked. That is because this pipe is just a little too small. So we'll just have to go back to this pipe to plant the onion seedlings. Well, that was a bummer. I had to go and get a bigger piece of pipe because some of the plugs were sticking in the smaller one that I had. But I'll leave that in the video because it'll show you, part of teaching is to show you what happens if you do things wrong, right? You gotta have a big enough piece of pipe to do this. You see now, things get planted much easier. And there's another way of doing these. These little grabber things you can get from the dollar store actually. Hold on to the plug, sticking in where you want them to go, and planting like that. Arm extender, my brother will call it. So I'm finding this to be the easiest for planting the onion seedlings. You hold on to the seedling top itself and pinch the root portion sticking down in the hole. If your soil is a little harder, of course, you'd have to use a dibber and make holes first. In fact, with this thing, I should be able to reach across the bed. Makes planting more of a leisure activity doing it this way. Don't think there's anything going to come of that one. I'll just put that right there. That's the ones that I just did. So I will plant out this bed and then we'll come back. '89 Red Weathersfield and '91 Alyssa Craig. And whatever you does, don't forget to water them in and water them well. These are transplants now. Some of them had serious root disturbance, and so they're going to need a lot of water to stay healthy for the next couple of days, especially considering we have 4 days of complete sun in the forecast. I counted 38, I believe it is Rosa di Calce, right here. In this bed I put in about 7 in a row, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And 61, I think it was, of the Rosa di Milano. And then I had 31 of Red Spring, which I put in here. Now, I do have some more Calce and Rosa di Milano seedlings in the house, but I'll find somewhere else to put those. They're laying down quite flat. The red spring, because they were planted all into one group and you had to tease them apart, so they're gone in bare root. Now as for planting them, like I said, I showed you 2 different sizes of pipe, 2 different styles of pipe. But for these seedlings, they're small seedlings, and I found that this little grabber thing is best. So you grab them by the root portion and you just poke the root portion down into the soil and then let it go. That way the leaves are sticking up and the soil just falls back around the roots, and if it's not around the roots enough, you can just hook it in with the end of your little grabber thing. Now we're ready to plant some small seeds. I think if I had, this is 3/4 inch, if I had a 1 inch plastic pipe, it would have worked well with the onion seedlings. But this I made last year. I know it works perfectly with seeds, and it would have worked perfectly with onion sets as well. A couple things people do, you see, you can get these when you make your lines in the bed. There's a couple different versions of these, and the opening there, you can adjust it according to the size of your seed and slowly shake them out along the row. Some people mix their seed with sand, and there's various different ways that people have tried to decrease how thick the seeds go, when it's a difficulty of just rolling it out over your fingers or shaking it out over a container. So on my side here, I've got this. This is just something I made up at the ice cream container with a hook that it can go over my belt. But I have my seeds in here. I've got an extra little container because I wanted to be able to pour them out. I'll put them down there and they'll be safe. They won't tip over because I'm standing up. And I can easily reach in and just grab, see, it was just 2 that I grabbed between my thumb and finger. And if I wanted to, I can take the time and grab just 1 at a time. We'll make our lines across. Did I tell you that those seeds were rutabaga, Swede in Europe? So rutabaga, they grow fairly large. So you have to have the rows at least 6 inches apart, if not 10. And that's just because the leaves, they'll crowd each other out. How many did I get? "15 rows out of 10 feet. That's about 8 inches, isn't it? And you space them, the final spacing is 6 inches, I believe, in the row. Can't remember. But you put your seeds about 2 inches apart. See, I just picked up 1 seed then. Dropping down the pipe, that's gone right down onto the ground. And I move my pipe back 2 inches. The thing is, these will be very easy to thin out now when they come up. As I rest that point of the pipe down on the ground and makes a little divot, So when I come back to water it, the soil will be washed in on top of the seed, and I don't have to worry about getting down there and actually covering them up. I had that sped up. I will put up on the screen how long it took me. Now I'll pour the rest of my seeds back in the container. I've got enough rutabaga seed to supply every gardener for 100 kilometers around. So you can see every little divot where I poked the pipe down. I have one seed in each of those divots, and when I water them, it'll wash a little bit of soil down on top of them, so I just had to come along with the hose and water them like I would normally water plants, and they're all set. The sun is starting to set, but we're going to put carrots over here and in this bed. I decided I'm not going to let the parsnip grow, but if you look back in my fall videos, I put some layer of compost on here, and I lightly sprinkled parsnip seeds over the surface, and then I roughed it up again with the back of the brush rake. You see here, that's parsnip. But now this way only works. It took me only like 2 minutes, if that, to seed out this bed. But that only works if you know what they look like as soon as they come up. I could have done that with the rutabaga, and I know that because over in this bed, yeah, I've got to take the grass net out of it, but I grow mustard out to seed, and when you're harvesting mustard seed, you're going to be dropping a lot of seeds, so I treat it as a reseeding annual. And you see, they're all coming up now. These here, that's mustard plants. So we know the soil is warm enough, and we can go and plant. For this year, I bought new carrot seed, and I figured Denver's Athlon. Remember, we had them in Shedwars last year. And I've got the Scarlet Nantes, which is a popular one around here, and Littlefinger. Something tells me I've got more seed, so I'll do half with Denver's Athlon, half with Littlefinger, or half with Scarlet Nantes, and then I will go in the house and see if I've got that other type of seed. Something tells me I should have 4 different varieties of carrot. Anyway, Scarlet Nantes. This is another thing, carrot seeds are so blessedly small, and there's a little bit of wind blowing now. Hopefully it doesn't make too much noise. But any space, if you got a bit of wind, any space between your hand or the container you're shaking them out of and the soil at all, your carrot seed can blow away. I mean, Look at how tiny these things are. But when you pick them up, you can roll them between your finger and easily get at least down to 2. Right, 2 or 3 seeds you'll have picked up, and you drop it right in the pipe. Being that they were so light and tiny, I checked the carrot seed to make sure that they didn't, like, from static electricity or something, stick to the wall, and they didn't. So I can go through this now. You really don't move the pipe much at all when you're doing carrots, because carrots, the final spacing is only 3 inches, right? I'll do the others off camera. Let's go and I'll show you about planting peas. Over there by the fence, we not only have in ground, on the inside of the fence is actually below grade. I plant my peas along the front fence and use the fence as a trellis. But peas have to be poked into the ground at least 1/2 inch, if not an inch. Hence the reason for this little flapper guy. I can open it, I can close it. So I can close it, drop a pea in the top. Now the pea is in the top. I can push that point, as long as it don't hit a rock, into the ground, open it up, and now my pea is down there planted. Close, drop in the pea, push down, open up, your pea is planted. So you can push it in first too if you want. As you're reaching for the next pea, you push the pipe in. So for small seed, you don't need this little flap. All you need is a piece of pipe, and preferably cut on an angle on the bottom end. And when I was setting the small seed, I had that flap open all the time, so I didn't even need it, and just drop the seed down one at a time as you go along your little furrow. However, with peas and onion sets, things like that, stuff that needs to be poked into the ground, then you're going to need this little flapper so that you can poke it in the ground, drop down your little set, and then you open it up, your set falls out, soil falls in around it.